My name is Ayush and I have been working as a backend developer for Complere Infosystem, and today I'll teach you how to create a simple web app API in REST format using the Express framework and MongoDB database. So let's start. First of all, we need to initialize npm, which is a node package manager, so we can uh, download and manage different kinds of packages that are required to make our project. Okay, so I initialized it with by flag, which means yes to all the default answers. Now I'm going to install packages that are Express and Mongoose. So Mongoose is an layer for MongoDB database. So creating a simple web app, you can use any database you want, but I think that Mongoose is really convenient, or MongoDB is really convenient to create a simple app, because the functions or the queries that we use to manipulate data in MongoDB is quite simple and understandable. So I'm using MongoDB database. So till these are installing, I'm going to create the whole folder structure. So I'm going to have a model folder for database connection, uh, folder for my service, which is going to be a user service, and inside and there are going to be two files, app.js, which is my server file, as well as app.routes.js, which is the file which is going to have all the routes configured in one place. Okay. So let's go in the app.route.js. This is equal to this. Take the variable route as an router expression of Express module. I'm going to set the merge param options to true. Dot use. I'm going to use the user routes for the users. User routes, and then I'm going to export route. Now in JS, I'm going to configure my server. Next tab, which extends to the Express function. Now use express.json to format the data in the JSON format. And then use option to false. To use the route that I have mentioned in the app.routes, and then I'm going to make my app listen the port number, which I'm going to define in a little bit, and then I'm going to call an callback function is going to do nothing but console log that my server has started on port. So for port, what I'm going to do, I'm going to define a variable port which either holds the value from the environment variable, which is process dot env dot port, or if not, then the port number is going to be 5000, which is the default port. Let's see if we comment this right now and describe two scripts here. Is going to be start. No, I'm going to describe only one script here, which is going to be Node.js app.js to run my server file. I have installed the Node.1 as an global dependency, but you can always download it as a dev dependency, but you have to just give the capital D flag and say Node.1, and you can see that there is going to be a column in under the dependencies of dev dependencies, and there's going to be Node.1 in there. See, dev dependencies, Node. So this much done. If I run npm start, my server should start on port number 5000. Okay, so the server has started on port 5000. Now let's work on our service. First, I'm going to establish my database connection. So cd db. So ls there is no file. I'm going to create one file called connect.js. Connect.js. I'm going to use the Mongoose library. Now I'm going to create a function connect, which is going to be an async function, which I'm going to connect myself. So if you want to know the string to the server, you can easily do it by just going into the browser and going to the Mongoose package in npm, and you'll find the default database connection string or the connection address, which is this in the documentation, and you can simply just copy this and paste it here. Create a try catch block here, and I'm going to put this code into the try block. If try to connect to the database, I'm going to name it SDB. SDB, and after that I'm going to call a callback function, which is going to do nothing but simply console log that my database is connected. It's connected, and if there's going to be some error, then I'm going to console log that error. Okay, so I'm going to export this connect function from here, so that I can further import it into my user service to establish the connection. Okay, now my database connection is, uh, will will get triggered in my service. Now I'm going to create a model. So we'll create a user model. I'm creating a file named model.js just to keep it simple, and I'm going to again require the mongoose module. Now before creating a user model, I need to have a schema which is going to define what are all the fields that is going to be in that user model. So const user schema is equal to new mongoose dot schema is going to be a name, is going to be of type string, and there is going to be an email which is also going to be of type string, just to keep everything simple. Now I have to create the model using the schema. There's going to be a user model with user schema. I'm going to export this user model. Exports, and my database connection as well uh, as my app.js and my app.out.js file is complete. I'm going to use now create my user service. So let's go inside the user service. Now I'm going to create some files. First, user.routes.js, index.js, user.controller.js, and user.service.js. Okay, so all those files are here. Now I'm going to create the user routes.js. Const express where the this module. Express is basically a framework to design the REST APIs. I'm going to have root as an extension of router, and I'm going to give it merge parent options to true. I'll have get. Now my route. So for the flow of the project, my user routes is going to pass the control to the user controller, and the controller is going to pass the control to the user service. So let's import controller here. I know that there is no file or no function in the controller right now, but there's going to be. So I'm going to import the whole object here. I'm going to get the functions. Going to get the. I'm going to leave the route as it is, and I'm going to call the controller dot get user function. Going to export the route here. go to the controller. And controller, I'm going to import the service. Now let's create the get user function. Async function with request and response objects. I'm going to put all this in a try catch block. If there's going to be an error, I'm going to send that error back to the user. Or else I'm going to have the data from the get user function that is in the. I'm going to create this function also. Then just send that data back to the user. To show you something, if you look in the uh, user routes, the get user function is blue because it says any, because it doesn't have any type right now, because it can't import anything if controller is not exporting anything. And the moment I export get user function, you can see now the color is changed and it shows that get user is in returns and promise import get user. See, now let's go to the service. In service, first I'm going to import the connect function. Connect function that is in the my db file, db folder, as well as the user model. Now I have my connect, so I'm going to call the connect function right here. So whenever I run any code in service, my database is connected. Now let's create the get user function here. Now what this function is going to do is simply going to return the users, all the users that are in the database. Users.find to an empty object. Now return user. Again, let's export this. Now if we now let's go to the index.js file, where I'm going to import all the objects of the controller route and service file. So I'm going to const user service from the service file. Similar steps for both of the other files. The user controller, Now export. Now let's export all of these. Now in app.root.js, let's get the user routes from index.js. Routes. Now, if we run our server, I think that it's going to run. Let's see. The database is connected. So it's saying database. Let's go to connect.js. Okay, D is not there, so database. Now database is connected. Let's go there. Just delete this. Test DB. Drop this database. Now let's restart the server and refresh this. See, now there is the user database. Data in the see, like I can test DB. I can delete this database again and again, Once I refresh, there is no database there. But once I restart my server, the database is going to be there. It's refreshing. See, test DB is here. Now let's create a function to add user. Okay, so first of all, let's just check if our function is even, if our server is even running or not, or smoothly or not. So I'm going to create a function, a route function for this. I am going to create a route function for my home route and see if I'm gonna get this response or not. So we are running Node.js. Start the server, go to the postman, get this route, change this request to get, and get the home route. To add, send, and okay, okay. So some issues there, case insensitive or undefined, I guess. This is going to be the issue. This is going to solve the issue. That happened. So thing is, nothing is there. I don't know why the error is thrown. Local host. Yeah. So you can see on the home route, I'm getting the learning Node.js. Okay. So now let's create a function to add the user. So get in the user route, router dot post route. So post Now let's kill the server for now, because we are not doing anything with it. Slash add roller add user. So the controller, just going to copy this function here, create a similar one with the name changed. But there are going to be some value that I am going to receive from my request dot body the dot body object, that is going to be name of the user that I have specified in the user model, as well as the email. So I'm going to pass the similar object here, name, email, and now that I have done that, I am going to export this function, add user. Let's go to the user service, create the function, add user. Now it's going to have some meters that it's going to receive from data. Now I'm going to create a new user. User, user. I'm going to create a new user and put it into another user. I'm going to pass the name as name and email. We are going to save that user. User is saved. Now let's get this user and send it back. If I return the user from here, I think that it should return user as the new user created uh, to the user that is requesting to create another user. Route, there is going to be user out. So let's go to the postman, have the added user, let's send this request. So what I'm getting right now, something is wrong. Okay, I think that I have not running the wrong god. Server is not running. Okay, run the server as well as the mongod. Now let's see what I get in this request. Okay, so I get the newly created user. If I refresh this, yeah, so there is the user. So now since we have created the user, now I want to get the specific user by the user ID. So let's create a function for that. Route dot get. I am going to pass the id in params controller dot get. Let's create this function in the controller. So I'm going to right now I'm going to close all the files instead of control close all the files except these three because I have to continuously navigate back and forth in these files. So let's start. So get user by id. Let's go to the controller, create a function just below get user by id. See, as you start to create different functions, the AI is going to recognize all that and will eventually help you create functions quickly. Slash block. Dot get user id. I'm going to pass the id that I'm going to take out from request.params. Now I'm going to res.send the data as the response. Now let's go to the user service. No, let's export this function first. User service. Now let's create this function. So this function is going to be quite similar. Get user by id. There's going to be some id, then find user by id is equal to id underscore id. Underscore id is going to be the id and return that user. So let's this and try running this function. Let me get id of this user. What is this id? Yeah, id of this user. Now get slash users user slash id send get request happening server running. Okay, so another res.send is not a function. Okay, okay. Controller res.send res.request. Let's do it once more. The data. Now let's create the delete as well as the update routes. So the delete route is quite similar, but the update route is quite hard. So let's create the delete route first. Now I'm going to add get router route dot delete. ID going to the controller dot delete user. Let's go to the controller and create the delete user function. Delete user is going to be a function, async function, rest comma response to get ID from the request dot parameters. That's it. Get a delete user function in the service ID, then we get the deleted user data. But I have forgot one thing, that is the try catch block. I am going to create the try catch block here and just select all that data, all this code, and just put it there to send the error as the response. Now delete user. Now let's go to the service. In service I have to create another function called delete user. Delete user is going to be an async function taking only one parameter, which is the ID of the user that I want to delete. Now user is going to be the user dot delete one. I'm going to delete only one user where the underscore ID is matching the ID that we are getting. I'm going to put await in front of it, and I'm going to return this user. But first, before deleting the user, we need to check if the user is in the database, right? So let's do that. So first we are going to find the user. So const found user is going to be user dot find one. I'm going to pass the underscore ID is equal to ID. Now if found user is there, I'm going to delete the found user. Okay. So if the found user is there, I'm going to delete found user and return the user that I found. But if the found user is not there, else I'm going to return a simple string which says user with given ID is not found. This delete user. Let's start our server again and check out our route that we have just created. wait for it to connect to the database. It's connected to the database. Now let's create a new request here, which is going to be a delete request on the same route. To be just one different, that is going to be a delete keyword in there. I'm going to change the ID a bit. If I send the request, it should say the user with the given ID is not found, but it returns an empty object. What does it say? Or unhandled promise rejected. What does it say? Okay, let's see what is the found user that we are getting. Let's run the delete request again and check in our console. Okay, now we might have to run it again. Let's see. So now we might have to debug this a bit. Let's see if the mobile is running and what is it saying. Cast object ID field for value. Model user. It means that there is no Let's see now if that works. Still an empty object, so start parents. I'm getting the ID from there. Okay, I haven't used await. Think that this might be enough. Say, I think it might have thrown an error. What does it say in the console? If user find one. There is no found user. Thing that I have did this. Yeah, I think now it should work fine. Let's run a request one more time. Let's see. Acknowledge true till it count one. Okay. So now you can see that the data is successfully deleted. Okay. Now let's update data. Update data is somewhat similar to update data is somewhat similar to delete user. Let's check the documentation of the mongoose to delete or to update a user. Let's see. Now if I search mongoose, it one. See this function index.js user. Okay, user.update one. See here age is greater than 5. Then we pass the parameter that we want to change. Like if id is id, then change this to this. See, now let's implement this. Why I showed you this is because I want you to understand the significance of updating data using the MongoDB database. Let's create. Now to route.put, we create a put request slash update slash id of the user that we need to pass, controller dot p update user. Let's get going. Const update user. Update user. Now I'm getting the fields that I need to update in that user. Okay. Async function request comma response. Catch block. Not making any errors right now. Get the value of get name comma email, or we can do it according to what is there to update. Is equal to wait dot get user. To pass the name and email values there, and then we just send the data value. Okay, now let's go to the service, and first of all export this function from here. Let's go to service. Now in service, let's update a user. So I'm going to do everything above delete, because delete is the last function that you want to call, or you can do it your way. I pass two objects from the controller. I'm going to have an ID also, because I need to find the user that I want to update, right? Took out ID from the params, and then pass it as a separate object inside that function. ID. Now let's get going. Now I need to find if there is an user with this ID. Found user is equal to await user dot find. Dot find. I'm going to pass the ID over here. So ID is equal to ID. And if there is no found user, simply return there is no user. I can just simply copy this line, and paste it here. Else, what I'm going to do, I'm going to update that user. So, const user is going to be find update. So update 1. Now we're going to pass the first parameter, which is going to be the parameter that we are going to use the match the user to the user that we are searching for. And we are going to set the values of name to name and email to email. See, now we are going to get return the user. Now let's see how it works in the flesh. So first of all, we might need to add a user. So where is this user dot add? And the user is added in the database. Nice. Now let's copy the ID of this user. Copy the ID of the user and create a put request. Put request. Put request is going to be somewhat similar to the delete request. So I'm going to copy this, paste it here, slash, and I'm going to say update. I'm going to pass here. I'm going to change the values of change the name to Manish and the email to email to man@123.com. Send this request. If the request is successful, I'm going to get some data. Request is hanging right now. Let's wait a bit. This is how you create a simple REST API using the MVC model and Express framework. Thank you.